recorded in the beautiful mountains of British Columbia. Welcome to
Friends on Horses.
Welcome back to the Friends on Horses podcast. Today we have the incredible Monty Gwynne. Monty is a professional trainer, coach, and clinician specializing in positive reinforcement training. Monty has trained numerous breeds of horses in various disciplines: classical dressage, classical in-hand dressage, driving, reining, jumping, and voltiege. Oh, you better pronounce it, Monty.
Voltiege.
Voltiege, there we go, to name a few. Monty was fortunate to be coach for Team Quarter Horse and also Team Tennessee Walking Horse at Spruce Meadow's Battle of the Breeds. Monty has written clicker training articles for both Horse Canada and Saddle Up magazine, and these are just a few of her accomplishments. I'm excited to introduce Monty Gwynne. Welcome, Monty.
Thank you, Emma. What a wonderful introduction.
Well, I'm particularly excited that you're here. Some of our listeners and all of my friends know that I really look up to you. So this is a special opportunity for me.
Well, it was wonderful to have you come and visit and play with my ponies, and hope to have you back again soon.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Maybe even make it out there one day and have a clinic out there. That would be great.
I'm slowly gathering people. It's going to happen.
All right.
So Monty, I'd like to first start with your before clicker training history, because I think it's pretty cool and will be interesting for people to hear about. So let me know what you were doing before you found clicker training.
Well, my path was pretty normal, I think, for the day and age. Although maybe not the beginning so much. When I was little, and this is also a bit of an oddity, I was born and raised in Banff. And there's not many people that can say that they were actually born and raised in Banff. There's not a lot of horse community or anything, or there wasn't back then. And back then we could have a horse up in Banff for about 2 months of the year. So not a lot of exposure. So let me back this up even a little bit further. My family was not horsey at all. Mom was raised on the farm and worked on the farm with horses because that was what was done back then. But they had no interest in horses. Nobody else in the family really had much interest in horses. And so I'm not sure where my absolute passion came from. So when I was young and I was good all week, I would get to go and ride for 1 hour on one of those trail rides where they were just nose to tail. Mm-hmm. And that kind of went on for a few years. I would read everything I could get my hands on with regards to horses, be it fiction, nonfiction, all the Black Stallion books and everything else like that. And then as I got older, I managed to talk my parents into letting me have a horse. And of course, the horse that we got was not, well, let's put it this way, she was a project.
The first horse often is funny, huh?
Yeah, for sure. And she taught me a lot. So she came to me, she was an older horse. She was sort of a kid's ranch horse, but not a very good one. She was barn sour. She would rear. She would bite. You couldn't catch her. So all the good things that you want in a first horse.
Yep.
Especially for a child, right? So because I read everything that I could get my hands on, I would go out and I would try this. I'd read up on, well, what do I do for rearing? And I'd read, all the books on this that I could find back then. We didn't have the internet. Thank goodness, I think, actually. So I'd go out and I'd try this stuff, and I'd try this and I'd try that, and some of it would work and some of it wouldn't work. And so sort of along the way, I actually discovered that if I used food with her, there was no marker signal or anything back then, but even back then, I guess I was sort of a positive reinforcement trainer. So we worked for many years with her. She turned out to be a fabulous horse, absolutely fabulous horse. And that was sort of my journey into horses, my own horses. I was fortunate enough to be able to go and take a few lessons here and there from people. But most of my learning was book learning and going out and trying it. And to this day, I guess maybe that has instilled in me the ability to go and play, go and try things. Because so many people they're afraid to go and try something. It's like, oh, nobody else does it like that, or, oh, I don't want to mess this up, or, you know, they want it to be perfect, and it has to be the journey that you enjoy and not the end goal of perfection, because perfection is pretty elusive. Yeah, so over the years, I mean, that sort of carried on. I was fortunate enough to, during university, to work with some really great people that had quarter horses, got to train a lot of their young stock, and ways that I look back on and go, oh my, I could do that so much better now. But you do what you do the best you know, and then you do better when you know better. I've got some youngsters here right now that are just totally amazing because they've been started with positive reinforcement outside of the little tiny bit before I got them as rescues when they were babies. But it's so cool to see my evolution. So going back to sort of how I got more into the clicker training, I had been training pretty much full-time for several years. And I sort of stumbled across a clinic that was being hosted by a lady down in Millerville, and the clinician was Alexander Karelin. So I thought I'd go and have a look.
Sorry, Monty, to interrupt you. Two questions. One is, what was the style of training you were doing before? And then I would love also to know what made you interested in taking a clicker training or a positive reinforcement training clinic?
Well, let me answer the second one first.
Okay.
What made me interested, even from, you know, the story that I told you about childhood, I was always interested in knowing all I could about what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think that carries through to today. Now, as far as my training went, or the way that I trained, it was pretty normal. It was pretty normal pressure and release. I went through one of the programs, one of the natural horsemanship programs that was sort of in vogue at the time that I met Alexander Karelin. It was one of the more famous ones that's still out there, that has a wonderful marketing program. Yep. And I went through up to the second level with that. And I went, I can't do this. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. It just wasn't working for me. I mean, I had trained before I sort of delved into this professionals program. I had trained successfully before that. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, this isn't working. And I guess to explain a little bit more, I needed to have a bit of a change in the way that I trained to make it less physically demanding on me. Okay. Because I was at a stage in my life, I was pregnant. My body was struggling with the pregnancy as far as that my joints were really loose. So I couldn't pull the way I used to, and I couldn't put a leg on the way that I used to. So I was searching for something to help me keep doing what I wanted to do, but do it and still allow my body to be reasonably functional.
Fair.
So, pardon?
I said fair enough. And which daughter was it?
Well, it was with the first one, with Jessie, and yeah.
So you can credit her with part of your career path.
I can, absolutely. And it was a good thing that I was riding gaited horses at the time, because she was breech, and she would, if we got going, if it was too bumpy, so gaited horses are pretty smooth, but occasionally they'd get a little bumpy, and she'd push her feet on it against my pelvis, and I'd have to slow down. So it was, you know, she was, yes, monitoring me from the inside already. But yeah, it was really good. And I was fortunate enough, I mean, I rode all the way through both pregnancies. I had well-trained horses that I felt safe on. I showed all the way through both pregnancies. I showed for clients all the way through both pregnancies. And poor Carl would walk up and down the barn aisle with 2 screaming children while I was in the show ring. So I credit to Carl too for hanging in there for me. But yeah, it didn't feel right because I'd always trained with food, not with a marker signal, so not scientifically totally correctly, but I had always sort of, you know, it was okay, we're done here, or you did that gait really well, let's stop and you can have a food reinforcement. So when I just happened to see Alexander Karelin's little advertisement and decided, well, why not? Let's go and have a look and see what this is. And I was hooked. That was pretty much it. I went, oh, this stuff is really cool. And went to one of her first clinics that she had there. I don't think I went to that one because it was full, but I went to the next one. And she showed me a picture of Nuno Oliveira doing a piaffe on a loose rein. And I said to her, if you can show me how to do that in a way that I can be comfortable with, because I know how to do it the normal way, then I'm in. You know, we'll follow you. And so I did that for many, many years. Alex would come up and we'd had 2 clinics a year for several years. And yeah, I just was absolutely amazed at how the horses learned, how they retained the information that you taught them. You didn't have to reteach a lesson. They were ready and eager to go on and proceed from there. Yeah, and even today, it amazes me that I can put a pony out and, you know, not do anything with them for a month if I'm traveling or whatever, and come back in and they're like, yep, remember this, let's go on, what were we doing next? So that's the cool part of it. The other cool part is the riding. Now, I didn't get a lot of that from Alex's work. Again, I went and explored a bunch of the classical work, the old masters' work. I like to follow Bert Brander up and watch his videos. They're in German, but I'm a visual learner, so I can pretty much see what he's doing in the videos and transfer that to my own work. But I can ride and get way less tired than I ever used to, because I'm not struggling to have the horse understand.
Right.
You know, all the work is taught on the ground first. Mm-hmm. It's taught through cue transfer process, so that while the cues may look very traditional, they haven't been taught with the typical pressure and release to start with.
Let's for those who don't know, cue transfer is a pretty cool thing. Could you explain that to our listeners?
Ooh, okay. So let's say I would like a horse to be able to follow a lead rope. So traditionally, you'd take the slack up on the lead rope, you'd go to point of contact or more, depending on your training methods. You may add, again, depending on your training methods, the more typical things that you'll see is they'll start to add pressure with a flag, or, you know, they'll start to swing a rope at the hind end, any of those sorts of things, and you know, keep the pressure or increase the pressure on the lead rope. Well, the problem here is the horse doesn't understand what you're asking him for. Mm-hmm. So rather than have him struggle through and go, oh, wow, you mean if I just did this, then that horrid thing would stop that I want to get rid of? So that's negative reinforcement. They want to get rid of something they don't like. And through that, they find the answer to your question.
Right.
So in positive reinforcement training, what I would do is I would teach them to target first. So that means I would hold up an object. Do I have an object that you can see? I would hold up this. Make sure I'm not Okay, there we go. Giving you any information you don't need to know. So here's his nose, and if I hold up something in front of his nose, horses tend to be very curious. So he's probably either going to reach forward a little bit, or he's going to reach forward and touch it. And what I can do is when he touches it, I would mark that behavior with a marker signal. So that tells the horse, yes, that's the behavior I wanted you to do. So I would mark it, and I use a tongue click. And then I would do a food reinforcement. So what happens here is I can present this, and he's going to start to move towards it. So if I present it further away, he's actually going to have to take a step and move towards it to touch it to get his reinforcement. Okay? So he understands what he needs to do to get what he wants, his food reinforcement. So if I can take a lead rope now and add a little bit of pressure onto this lead rope. Do you understand what that means? And I mean, the snap is going to swing a little tiny bit. I'm not going to go to point of contact. I'm not going to go to pull. So they can feel when that lead rope swings. Do you understand what that means? He's probably going to say, I have no idea, woman, what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. If I hold this up and he comes forward and makes that snap go down again, I will mark that behavior.
Right.
He knows the answer. So rather than escalating the pressure, I have already given him a hint with targeting to help him find the answer to the pressure on the lead rope.
Right. And are you saying that then it doesn't feel, it's not an aversive process for the horse?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't really have to struggle. There's no increase in pressure. He knows that if he goes towards the target, that he's going to get reinforced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then eventually, once I start to just pick up the lead rope, he goes, oh, I know the answer to this question. So I don't ever have to get hard on his face. And he goes, I know this answer. I can do this. You don't have to yell at me. We can have a quiet conversation.
Right. Right.
Now a lot of, I guess a lot of trainers that say they're purely positive reinforcement trainers say they don't like a tactile cue. Again, it depends on how that tactile cue has been taught. And if you're a ballroom dancer, and I was fortunate enough to learn ballroom dancing when I was little as well, the tactile cue, depending on your partner, can either be information or it can be an aversive. So if we're dancing and you go, oh, can you move just a little bit this way because we're going to run into these people that are behind us? That's different than the person that you dance with that steps all over your toes. You don't want to dance with that person very much that steps on your toes, but you're quite happy to dance with the person that says, oh, wait, let's pause here a moment. Yeah. Because I have a person behind us. You need to wait for a second, and now we can go. So my whole program is based on making things feel like a beautiful ballroom dance.
Wonderful. And I would even say that, when I was out at your place, it feels like you and especially when you're using tactile cues, you and your horse are working on learning the steps gently together rather than someone coming up and grabbing your hands and expecting you to know the steps. Yeah. It was very cool. And for those who don't understand, can we briefly cover some of the science behind clicker training?
Ooh, we can. There's some awesome books out there. There's some people out there that probably explain it way better than I can. So there's 4 quadrants. There is, people put me on the spot here, Emma. I usually only operate in 2 of those quadrants. So we have negative reinforcement, which is sort of your typical horse training scenario. You pull on the lead rope, the horse wants to get rid of the pressure on the lead rope, so that's the pressure goes away. So that's negative. Negative means you take it away. and they find relief.
Right.
With positive reinforcement, you are adding something. It's R plus, so the plus means you're adding something. So once they do the behavior, they get something they like. So I have added something to them. The difference between those two training methods, in my mind, is the difference in motivation. Is the animal motivated to avoid, or is the animal motivated to want to engage?
Right.
And depending on how you train, you become associated with that training method. So do you want to, as an animal, avoid me because I use pressure? Or as an animal, do you want to be with me because I get you things that you like?
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So there's the two P's as well. There's positive punishment and negative punishment. So positive punishment is, a simple example would be the horse bites me and I hit him on the nose. It's supposed to decrease the behavior. Is that right, Emma? You're more up on this behavior quadrant stuff than...
I'm a bit of a nerd for sure. Exactly. So positive punishment is you are adding something like a whip or a smack on the nose to decrease a behavior, whereas with reinforcement, you're looking to increase behaviors.
Right. So how about negative punishment? So that would be if you want to have the hay that I'm coming with, but you're making nasty faces at everybody. If I stop and withhold, I am taking away something that you want until you give me the behavior that I would like, and then I will bring you the hay. So I don't know if that's a good example for people to think about. It's something I want. I really want the hay. I'm the horse. I really, really want the hay, but my behavior has to be good or the hay goes away. We take it away. Is that sort of right?
Yeah, I think that it was actually, for feeling tentative on me putting you on the spot, you did good.
All right. A lot of what I do is very intuitive, and it comes from years and years of experience. And I think if I can digress for a moment and talk about this, I love the fact that there are so many young people out there that are getting into positive reinforcement training and that want to go out and help people. And it's not only young people, there's a lot of people that are getting into positive reinforcement work. I just want to say, make sure you do your due diligence if you're going to go and train with somebody, if you're going to go and learn with somebody. If that person has only ever trained in their whole and entire lifetime 2 horses, they are not going to have the depth of knowledge that they may need to help you with your problem. Mm-hmm. If they have only ever trained in a certain discipline and you're in a different discipline, make sure you do your due diligence. If you find somebody that is just using the same method to teach each and everything, that's a bit of a red flag for me as well. If everything is done simply following a target, are they doing the work that you want your horse and you to be able to do?
Right.
So I would just say, make sure you do your due diligence, find someone that has trained a lot in different disciplines with different horses in different styles. And we all have our favorites. My passion is the classical dressage, the in-hand dressage, and the driving. I dabble in husbandry behaviors, teaching that with a permission cue, which we can certainly talk about in maybe another podcast because this one's getting long, especially for husbandry and medical procedures. I have a pony here that I've been treating her eye twice a day for the last 9 weeks. The vets are like, how can you still be doing that and she's not fighting you? Well, we have a permission cue and she gets pretty high rate of reinforcement and things that she really likes when we're done. And there's no struggle. she happily comes to the barn twice a day and has me poke around in her eyeball. But we each have our specialties. And it's not to say that I can't start someone and give them the basic foundations. But again, make sure that, you know, if you want classical dressage, you go to someone that has a background and a training history using positive reinforcement in that. Have you trained a horse from A to B, from start to as far as you can get with that individual horse, using the methods that you want to show this person? Mm-hmm. So just a word of caution, I guess, because like any kind of training out there can be good positive reinforcement trainers and bad positive reinforcement trainers, just like any trainers.
That's an important thing for people to be aware of, especially since there aren't a ton, or there are more now than ever, but yes, there aren't a lot or as many positive reinforcement trainers. So if someone's looking for somebody locally, that can be hard to find. But and if they don't really suit your needs, I would maybe encourage people, because it's, you know, the 21st century, we can hire someone, you know, like yourself, and do virtual training, and it can work quite well.
Yep, it works. It works really quite well for the vast majority of things that we want to train. There is, of course, nothing that can replace actually having someone there hands-on and in the moment, but it's a great way to start. The other thing to do is, if you can come to someone like you came to me and you got to play with schoolmasters, horses and ponies that know the work, and they can go, you know, if you sort of get it close, you get to have the feel of that lightness and that connection and where it will take you. You know, for you to go to a clinic and get 2 days and you're brand new at it and you learn that your horse can touch a target, you kind of go away thinking, well, whoopee ding, where is this going to take me as far as me being able to ride my horse or me being able to drive my horse?
Yeah, but how is this how can I apply this in a practical way?
Yeah, and now in my beginner clinics, I always try and send people away with a behavior that they can train simply using the 1 or 2 behaviors that we've taught through that clinic with novice horses and novice handlers. You know, can you go and stand at a stationary target? It's a very valuable behavior. You can use it for when you need to get into the paddock or into the stall, or if you want to, you know, come in through a gate. You can send them to their stationary target and they will wait for you to come through the gate. So I try now to send people away with something that they can see as it's being practical, it's being functional, and they can use it right away. But it still doesn't tell you, and it doesn't give you the feel of to where you can go with this, you know, to have a horse come from across the riding arena and line up at the mounting block. Yeah.
It's
line
yeah.
up. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Because I know we don't have a ton of time and we could probably chat for a few hours, I want to quickly, and this is a silly thing to quickly hit, but I can't help myself.
Okay.
Going back to permission cues, it's kind of a special thing that we're doing in positive reinforcement training. And I would love your description of a permission cue. So if someone wants to, you know, if someone's curious about it, they know what they're looking at and looking for, and know what a permission cue is.
Well, boy, that's okay. Reader's Digest version. So there's a couple of different ways and a couple of different ones that I sort of differentiate a little bit. So with my horses, for a lot of the medical procedures, I will have a stationary nose target to my hand. So it's if I present my hands like this and you put your nose into my hand, as long as your nose is in my hand, and you could say, you know, as long as you're staying near your stationary target, whatever. I like this because I can actually feel their tactile contact. So as long as your nose is in my hand, the veterinarian can proceed to do whatever they need to do. If the horse's nose comes out, the veterinarian stops, and we back up a little bit and kind of go, okay, what are you comfortable with the veterinarian doing? So the veterinarian will stop, the horse will put his nose back in here, and then the vet will go, can I do this? If the nose stays, then the veterinarian gets to proceed with the next step of whatever she needs to do, be it a blood draw or anything like that. Anytime the nose comes out, the veterinarian has to stop and pause, wait for the horse to say, oh, okay, I know this is going to happen. I'm ready now, right? So it lets the horse be in more control. And control is such a powerful thing for any living being, to have some control. And if you look at our horses' lives, we take away so much of their choice and control. So they're choosing to participate in this behavior. But we take away their choice. We tell them when they're going to get fed, what they're going to eat, who they're going to live with, all those things. So to give them back this little tiny bit of choice in their life really changes their relationship with you and how they view the whole sort of process. So that's one sort of permission cue. I know Peggy Hogan, who's a wonderful trainer. If you want to look at permission cues, she is the bee's knees for teaching permission cues. She does it in a more complicated way, and I'm not going to be able to explain it very well here. But what she does is she looks for a repeating behavior, and then takes that as being the horse's permission. So say they flick an ear. Whenever you say bring an object up to them, they would flick an ear. So you could say, okay, I'm going to wait until you flick that ear. And this is a really Reader's Digest version of what Peggy does, before I present this brush. So they've changed, and again, we're going to get way into scientific. We've changed from classical to operant. So operant says the animal controls the behavior. So if the ear flicks, the brush appears. If the ear doesn't flick, the brush doesn't appear. So the animal can, once again, give you permission to present this object. So they're, again, controlling what happens to them. So I think that's Reader's Digest, really quick and dirty permission cues. It's so cool. It's new, and it's I guess it's not new. It's new in the horse world, but a lot of things positive reinforcement are. In the zoo world, they've done it for a long time. They have hyenas that will line up and push their neck against a metal pen to do a voluntary blood draw. They're free to leave. They don't have to come over and do that. Nobody's going to wrangle them to do this because they don't want to stress their animals. And yet, as horse owners, we stress our animals out hugely with very ordinary procedures like deworming and vaccinations and blood draws, even hoof handling. So any behavior that you want, you can start to have a permission cue on.
Very, very cool. And I think about it like if you can give a tiger choice and they choose to get a blood draw, then for goodness sakes, we can do that with our horses.
Right? Yeah. They do this with dangerous animals. They do all sorts of really cool stuff with dangerous animals. And yet we seem to think that our domesticated horse needs to be treated like something that needs to be treated like a dangerous animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's something that might be, again, briefly, easier said than done, good to talk about is when we are feeling overwhelmed by our animals, or a good place to start might be protective contact. So would you explain to our listeners what protective contact is and where we can use it?
Well, yes, absolutely. That's an excellent place to start. And I always start everybody with protective contact. It works so well. So you can start with your horse in a stall, as long as you can reach into the stall easily. What it does is it adds sort of, the name implies it, protective contact. Excuse me. So what happens is when animals get scared, when horses get scared, they get big. When humans get scared, we get big. Get out of my space. So what happens is, if we use protective contact, I can remain on my side of the barrier. The horse cannot come over and invade my space, if that's what you want to look at. And I don't have to get big. I can reinforce behaviors I want without punishing behaviors that I don't want. So the animal learns that, oh, if I do this, this is good. And also it helps the animal understand that they're protected as well. I can't come in there and do what I might have done in the past. So it sets the animal up for success. And we always want to look at our antecedent arrangements. So how do we set up the environment to make sure that the animal is going to be successful in the job that we want them to do? Did
Very
that sort of
yeah.
answer? Okay.
Yeah, great answer. Very cool. I know that this isn't, well, please correct me, by the way, or add to this if you feel the need to. I've been working with my young horse, young-ish, I guess now. I'll always think about him as my young horse, Sterling, who you know about. You've helped me with him. I've been working with a little bit more speed on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when he's feeling really good, he's over 16 hands. I think he's 16.2. He can be a little bit goofy.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of work across the fence line, and a lot of work now that I've started setting myself up better with the backwards round pen.
Yeah, reverse round pen.
Reverse round pen. Yes. Yeah, that's right. And it helps me and him learn about being okay with space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's still that he has the choice to stay with me and engage with me.
Or leave.
Or
So
leave.
Choice, yeah.
Exactly. And I feel really safe and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So reverse round pen, we should probably explain what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So what it is the human is on the inside of the round pen and the horse is on the outside of the round pen. So the horse is free to leave should they not want to participate in whatever you're doing. The human is protected and the horse can kind of do, if he's feeling bouncy or whatever. And we can train lots of things. Like Emma mentioned, it adds the ability to add some space, because when we use positive reinforcement training, our horses really, really like to be close to us. So often it's a challenge to get them to go away. So yeah, and if we feel safe, then we can get brave and say, oh yeah, go ahead and do that big trot. It's okay because I'm in here and you can be big trot and I feel safe. And then we don't have to get scared and get big and then confuse them because they did big trot, which we really wanted, but it scared us, so we really didn't want it, so we punished it. So then we get in this vicious little circle of, well, do I trot? Do I not trot? Do I trot? Right?
Yeah.
So it absolutely sets you up for success. Good job.
Oh, well, thank you. And then for anyone who is interested in starting clicker training or wanting to transition, any advice for people getting started?
Well, I guess if I can toot my own horn here a little bit, I have got a website. Okay. I have my website. It's equispeak.com. There are probably 7 or 8 years of blogs in there that will help you get started. Those are free. Most of them have got little video clips on YouTube that you can go and have a look at. I have an online course now that's just starting up. The first 3 modules are available and they will get you well underway into getting started in the work. Teach you a couple of nice little practical behaviors to have right away as well. I'm available for online coaching if you get stuck. And I guess the thing that I would say, once you start, please, if you're struggling, get help sooner rather than later. It's way easier to fix the problems right away than to have to come back in and wade through all the things that have happened to get back to a starting point where we can both feel safe and you and your horse can feel safe doing the training. So don't wait to get help. People always go, well, I can't take a video. It takes too long to take a video. Maybe they're just a little scared to take a video, right? That they're going to get criticized. Don't look at it as criticism. Look at it as me being here to help you get where you want to get. And I can't, if it was all perfect, you wouldn't need me. But you need me to help you do the little things that'll get you success and get you to where you want to be sooner. So set your iPhone up on the fence, set up 2 pylons so you know how far you can go and I can still see you. Send in like a 3 or 4 minute video. That's plenty. And get started and get some help. And you will have great fun. So I have online coaching available that I can help you with. And what happens is you take the video, you send it to me, I look at it, analyze it, and then we Skype and we watch the video together. So I can say, well, you see here, this is what you needed to do. You reached your hand in your pouch before you marked it. So why are you think you're getting more of that behavior? So yeah, there's lots of good resources out there. There's people that have put out some books that I haven't had a chance to read. But yeah, go and enjoy the journey. And once you're start down that little rabbit hole, it's hard to climb back out. It is so much fun. I've had more fun training in the last over 25 years now that I've been clicker training than I ever had before.
Very cool. Very cool. Also, I must say that having you to send videos to helped me clean up my training while I was training.
Excellent.
Yeah, because I'm going, oh, Monty's going to see this. So I've structured my training a lot. It became a lot cleaner just knowing that someone's going to see my video. So that was helpful. Yep. But yeah, so I'm going to encourage people to go to, it's equispeak.com. Is that right?
Correct.
Yep. Equispeak.com. Check out your website and online training. Also, and correct me if I'm wrong, you do clinics all over the place.
Yes, I do. I was in Germany and France last year. I teach quite a bit down Eastern Canada, in Ontario. The clinics will hopefully be posted on the website in early 2020. I'm trying to get dates just finalized, and hopefully I'll get to come out and do one with you this year.
I would love that. I'd be so excited.
That would be great. Yes.
Awesome. Okay, unless there's anything else that you wanted to add, I think that we could probably wrap it up.
No, that sounds great, Emma. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's always a joy to talk to you, and I look forward to maybe seeing you in February.
Oh, I'm excited.
All right.
Okay, that's a wrap.
Thanks, Emma.
If you want more Friends on Horses, you can find us on Facebook at Friends on Horses Podcast.
Check it out for all the latest and greatest horsey news.
You can find us on the web at friendsonhorsespodcast.com
or Instagram at friendsonhorses_podcast.
Like what you hear? Help us quit our hay jobs by supporting Friends on Horses. You can support us by rating our episodes on iTunes,
becoming an ongoing sponsor through Patreon,
or simply by spreading the word about our show.
Have some feedback?
We'd love to hear from you.
Contact us via email at friendsonhorses@gmail.com.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.